In this lesson, we wanna talk about the last version of DuikScript or DuikBasel. Well, as you know, there are different plugins and scripts for rigging characters and animating them in After Effects. But DuikScript, especially the last version, is much more powerful and much more useful than the rest of the scripts. Because DuikScript method is exactly the same way how you rig characters in 3D software, especially in which you first create a skeleton, match the character with the skeleton, and then rig it, where Duik does the rigging just by one click. All the expression and the actions that the person needs to spend hours to do for rigging, Duik does by one click, and this feature makes it a powerful script for this purpose. DuikScript, in addition to the tools used to create a skeleton for the character and rig it, has many useful tools that can help you in the process of animating characters and creating your own animation clips in the shortest time and the simplest form as possible, having the least difficulties. After introducing this script briefly, let's look at how to install this script. Well, I downloaded the script for free from rainboxprod.com site, and you can download it too. After downloading the DuikBasel script, just copy these files and go to the place where the After Effects is installed. In script folder, go to script UI panels folder and paste this file here. Since I have pasted these files before, it displays this error for me. Well, I replaced to paste them. And just go to edit menu, preferences, general, and activate always script option to run the script. Then you can go to Windows menu and from the bottom run DuikBasel and place the window where you want. So in the next part we'll explain these panels, tools, and their functions. In this part we wanna talk about the structures panel. Before I explain this option, let me make a little point about designing the joints of the character you wanna animate. The point is that it's better to design the joint of your character as a circle. As you see, this joint is in a semicircle shape. While first I created it as a full circle, then I dragged the bottom point of the circle down and started designing the arm. To make it clear, I make a sample to see. First, I create a circle. For example, this is the arm joint of our character. So we want to bring its anchor point to the center of the circle. So press Y key, drag the anchor point to the center and hold Ctrl key to place it in the center of the circle. Then we select pen tool, right click on ellipse path, and select convert to Bezier path to edit it. Well, as I said, I just changed the bottom point of the circle. So this is the arm of our character. Put 2 points here. Hold Alt and click. Again hold Alt and click to make the points linear. Delete the lower point. Let me make it a little bigger. Well, now this is the arm of our character. Now I wanna create the forearm. Many people create it as a rectangle in designing forearm character, like what I am now doing. Then to rotate it, they bring its anchor point here. Let me set the opacity on 50 to see exactly where I should place the anchor point. I place the anchor point here so that it rotates from here. Well, let me rotate it to see what happens. You see it doesn't work properly. Then many add a point here and shape it into a semicircle to solve this problem. the problem is solved a little. But another problem comes up when you need to find the exact center of semicircle. This is troublesome in itself and takes your time. Well, now if I rotate it again, you see again we got a problem here. To avoid this, you need to create a circle in the middle of the arm from the beginning of your design by holding Ctrl Shift key and dragging. Then set its anchor point and bring and place it in the center by holding the Ctrl key. Let me hide the layer below to place the anchor point exactly in the center of the circle. Well, I show the layer again. We place the anchor point exactly in the center and then start designing. I drag it down. So this is the form of our character. Let me set the opacity of the layer on 100 to make it visible. You see, the problem was solved. By this way, you don't need to spend much time to set anchor point, or for example change the path to correct it. I think this is the easiest way, you'd better to use it. Well, let's go to the script. The first option we see in the structures panel is humanoid. This option creates a complete skeleton for human body so that we can match it with the character, rig it and have a good control over the animation. Well, I click on this option. As you see, it starts creating the skeleton. And on the layers side, as you see, it also creates the skeleton layers one by one and as well makes their names. Well, let me hide the layers of the characters so we can see the created skeleton itself. As you can see, here two skeletons for hands, two skeletons for the legs, one for the left and another one for the right, and one skeleton for the spine. These are completely disconnected. But if they become rigged and I try to move the hip, the hands and legs will move all together. But now they don't move so, for they haven't yet been rigged. These are just a simple skeleton that we first should match them with our character and then rig it. And then we can animate it. Well, this style of skeleton is mostly used for the characters in 2/3 view. But our character is in side view. Let me show it. As you see, our character is in side view. It means the position of two legs is the same. And also the position of the hand is the same. It's not like that. One is here and one is there. That's why this skeleton doesn't work for us. So I select and delete these skeletons. And we should do this manually. To create the skeleton manually, we use the next option. Well, we go to the next option, that's arm. This option is for creating the skeleton of the hand or front leg of animals. Well, let's go to its setting. On the top, there are three options. The first option is used for human skeleton and mammals, birds, rabbits, and other animals whose skeletons are similar to human beings. If we click on the second option, you see that it's mostly used for the front legs of the animals that have claws, such as dogs and cats. When we put the cursor on this option, it shows what animals it works for. The third option is used for the animals that have hooves, such as horses, camels, and cows. Here is written what animals have such a skeleton. Well, now we need human skeleton, so click hand option, and here it shows a general view of this type of skeleton. Here are 5 options that show different bones of hand. First one is shoulder, this is the arm, forearm, and the hand. When check this, it shows animal skeleton. Well, we don't need this now. And the default is so good. We need an arm, forearm, and a hand. So we click create. Well, a skeleton of the hand is created. Now we want to place and match it with the character. So we should place the anchor point of the skeleton exactly on the anchor point of the arm layer. Different ways can be used to do this.
Well, one way is to set the anchor point using these rulers.
And then bring and place the anchor point of the skeleton exactly on this point. That's very difficult. The other way, first show the position of the arm layer by pressing P key and click it to select. And then we press Ctrl C key to copy. And then we select the layer of the first skeleton, that's arm, select its position and press Ctrl V to paste. So the anchor point of the skeleton places exactly on the anchor point of the arm. This is also a way, but you need to copy and paste it repeatedly, and it will take some time and energy. The simplest way is to set the anchor point of the layer with circles or dots when creating them, to be easy when matching them with the skeleton.
So I've done this before. I created a composition, name it anchor point, and put the anchor points of the parts of the character into it.
Well, I make it visible. As you see, this is the anchor point of the arm. This is the anchor point of the forearm. This is the wrist. These are the ankle and the toes.
This is the hip.
This is the waist. This is stomach, the neck, and the head. Well, now bring and place the skeleton on the dot very easily.
We place the second one here.
The third one here. And the last one on the tip of the hand. Now we created this skeleton for the left hand of the character. To create it for the right hand too, we duplicate this skeleton. To do this, one way that may come to your mind is to select these layers, press Ctrl D and put them up. And then to match them with the layers of the other hand. But no, this is a mistake, so never do it. Because if I try to move the main joint, the two skeletons of the left and right hands are connected, and it doesn't work properly.
Well, I undo that.
Then what should I do to duplicate of this skeleton? DuickScript itself has an option in the structures panel called duplicate. We select those skeletons we want to duplicate and click duplicate. As you see on the top, the skeleton of the character's right hand is also created. Well, now if I drag this side the arm, the skeletons move all together, and the two skeletons of the hands are not stuck together like before. I press Ctrl Z to cancel their move. Later on, to make it easier to find the layers of the hand skeletons among these many layers later, we need to name them. Well, this is for the left hand, so I add an L for left and an underline to its beginning. This is just like that. To make doing it much easier, select all the left hand bones and we go to the tools panel and click rename option. In the perfect section, any text you write here will be added to the beginning of the names of the layers you selected. Now I add an L, underline, you see this is added. Now we want to do this for the skeletons of the right hand. Well, I want to add an R to the beginning of the layers names. So I click here, let me type an R, underline, and click rename. Now we want to remove these tools from the end of the layers. Click on remove the last option.
In this option, any number you set, the same number from the last letter of the layer's name will be removed.
For example, now I don't need the 2 and a space, so I want to remove the 2 letters. I set 2 and click rename option.
Well, there is a mistake, because I should also remove these letters so that R won't be added again. So here I set 2 and click rename. As you see, all the 2's are removed. So let's go to the third option, that's like. Well, let's go to its setting. Just like the hand option, here are 3 types of skeletons. This is for animal's leg or their back foot. This is for those animals I explained. This option is also for humans. This is thigh, and this is calf, this is foot, and this is for toes. Well, let's click back. Now we want to create a leg skeleton. I click on leg option and the skeleton will be created. Well, it's created. Now some of the skeleton are mixed up and overlapped. So I hide the previous skeleton we created for hands to focus on the leg skeleton. Just like the hand skeleton, this also should be matched with the layers of the foot. So I place it on the anchor point of the thigh, this on the knee, and this below is anchor point placed on the ankle, this one the toe joint, this will be the head on the tip of the foot. This red one is the layer that we have at the end of each skeleton. It's parented to this. You see, it goes wherever this goes. This doesn't need to be said. Let's select these 6 layers of the left foot skeleton. We want to name them. So we go to Tools panel and click on Rename. We want to add an L underline to the beginning of their names. Well, to make the layers of this skeleton obvious at a glance, we change their color. Let's set their color green. We select the left foot skeletons. Then we go back to Structures panel and duplicate them to create the right foot skeletons. We bring them up and set their color dark green. We set the layers of the right hand blue to make them quite obvious. We select the right foot skeletons of the character. We wanna add an R underline to the beginning of their names. And remove 2 letters from the end of their names. Also, we don't need an L underline in the beginning of the names of these layers, so we type 2 in the remove the first option. Well, it's corrected. Let's go to the 4th option, that's spine. Well, we go to its option. As you see, this option creates for us a head, a bone for the neck, a bone for the spine, and a bone for the hip. Here we can set it to create or not the head, or to create or not the hip. Here you can specify how many bones or layers to create for the spine, and how many layers to create for the neck. Well, the default settings are better for us. So let's get back and click on Spine option. It starts creating. Well, I bring it here so that we can see it clearly. So we hide the foot skeleton. It's a very important point that for a good rigging you need to have a layer in the character for each bone you create. For example, if the entire spine of your character is one layer, then it's better when creating the skeleton in spine option you set the number of the spine layer 1, not 2. Since I've created 2 layers here for my character's spine, so it's better to have 2 skeletons. Look at here, for example, I solo the 2 layers of the character's body to see it better. This is the lower part and this is the upper part. I note that be careful, for each of these bones you have to create a special layer in your character. For example, here I've created an empty circle for the hip so that the hip bone matches with it. Well, I'll match it with the hip. I bring the next bone to this point so that it can control the lower part of my character. And this one to this point. This also for the neck of the character. This is for the head. And this is for the end. Well, let's go to the next option, that's tail. This option is to create the bones of animal's tail. So let's go to the panel of this option. As you see, you can click on this option here and set the number of the bones of the animal's tail. The more the bones are, the better smoothness the tail will have. And the less the bones are, the lighter the tail will be, but the less flexibility it will have. For example, I set 4 and click create, and start creating the bones. Let me bring them to this side. Well, as you see, it creates 4 bones. There aren't many points in this option, only one point above this rigging remains that we will explain in the next panel, links and constraints. When we try to rig it using AutoRig and OK option, we will show how it differs from custom option. Also, the difference between each of these options can be found in their rigging. I removed these bones created for tail because we don't need them. Well, the next option is custom. If I click on it, you see it's almost like tail option. But as I said, the difference is just in its rigging. Here you can type the required number of the bones. For example, I said 5. You can set here the names of the layers. For example, let's name it sample. As you see, this option function is like the previous option tail. Only the color of the bones is the same here. Well, let's go to the next option, toggle edit mode. To better understand this option, it's better to explain it using an example. For example, suppose that when placing the bones, I place this bone on this point, while it should be placed on the other point. And after that I place the next bones. And after the completion of placing the bones, I realized my mistake. To fix it, I should place correctly this skeleton again. If I try to correct it, all the bones that are subset of this bone, such as the neck bone and the head bone, will move out of their place and should be set again. To avoid this, we press Ctrl Z. Now we want to change only this bone, but not to change the subsets anymore. To do this, we select that bone and click Toggle Edit Mode option. By clicking on this option, the name of the layer changes and a red circle is created around the bone. Then we just change the place of this bone easily. After placing it correctly, to avoid any problem in rigging, you should select the bone and click Toggle Edit Mode again. It returns to its first state. Well, let's go to Select Structures option. It's for selecting the bones. For example, when I click on this option, it selects all the bones that exist in the timeline. We explain the next option, that's duplicate when creating the skeleton. So let's go to the Show Hide option. Well, this option is used to hide and show the bones. Since the spawn skeleton are shown and the rest layer are hidden, by clicking on this option, it will reverse. So the upper layers become hidden and the lower layers appear. For avoiding this, I will show all the layers. This hides. As I click on it again, it appears them. Well, let's go to the next option, that's Edit. We click on Edit option and enter it. To explain it, I just keep the spine bones. I don't need the character either, so I hide it. I wanna edit this one. The first option here is size. Specify its size here. For example, medium or large. Custom option allows you to set manually the size of the bones. For example, we set it to 60 or any number you want. Well, I set it to small, that is its default mode. The second option here is color. By clicking on color option, you can change the color of the bones. For example, I set it pink. Well, this is random option. This option selects the color randomly. For example, I select this one and click this option. It's randomly specify different colors to the bone. Well, what does this option do? This option saves the color, size, and all the appearance setting of the bone. Then I want this bone to be just like the other one. To do this, I select the bone and click set option. As you see, the color and size of two bones becomes the same. Well, the last option is bake appearance. By clicking on this option, all the expressions created to change the appearance of the skeleton will be deleted. For example, now before applying this option, if I move this bone, the size of the bone will change. I can also change the color of the bone as I showed you. But after applying big appearance option, the appearance features of the bones will freeze, and you can no more change their color and size. This option is for the time you are sure of your skeleton, and you are sure you don't need to change it. So you can click on this option to delete those expressions and the process becomes more likely to continue. Well, now I select all the skeleton and click Bake Appearance. Now I want to change the color of this bone. As you see, no changes will be made. Choose the blue color, again no change. Likewise, if I drag this bone, the bone can no more be stretched or enlarged. Also, no changes can be made in its size. So let's get back. In the next panel, links and constraints, I'll explain how to rig the bones and I'll introduce icon and FK and the option of this panel.